if it doesn't flow directly to your value conclusion, or if it doesn't flow directly from your highest and best use analyses, why is it in the report?
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again. I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by three great companies. One of them, of course, is AllMode. AllMode is the software that will, it leads the charge as it is when it comes to report writing software, and there's a reason it does. Check them out by going to allamode.com or 800-ALLAMODE. Synapse is helping to bulletproof your appraisal report. Find out more by going to sparkforappraisers.com and clicking on the Synapse button. And finally, E&O through OREP. OREP is helping you to be protected and giving you benefits at the same time. You can find out more by going to orep.org. That's OREP.org. I want to welcome back to the program, a friend of the program, friend of myself, friendly guy all the way around, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome back, my friend.
Dustin, hi, how are you? It's good to be back with you. I appreciate the invitation.
Likewise. I love chatting with you. We had a little bit of a break there. Had some things going on my side, and you were very patient. Thank you for coming back to the program for our continued Dear USPAP Instructor episodes.
Oh, these are too much fun, Dustin.
Well, we're going to continue a series that you and I started here several months ago. And the series is, talking about various things that appraisers have asked you questions about, have been concerned about. Typically, what we do on these Dear USPAP Instructor episodes, as everyone knows, is we have very specific questions that have come in from our listeners. And they might email me, they might email you. My email, of course, is thecoach@theappraisercoach.com. Yours is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. And we typically answer those very quickly. I think, Tim, if they're USPAP related, I typically defer to you. But I know that you're very speedy in getting back to people and very kind with your time. But we also like to sometimes get their permission to ask questions here so that a broader audience who might have a similar or same questions could be answered. But we've kind of diverted from that the last little while and talked about just in general some things that have come up in either your coaching or mine. Most of these I think have come from your coaching over the years. And I would like to dive into two of those things today. How's that sound, Tim? Sounds
great, Dustin. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is comps. Okay. And sometimes an appraiser gets asked about comparable photos. And one of the comments that an appraiser might make back to an underwriter, if you will, as to why they did not take comp photos is, quote, comps shown in the report are the best, most comparable available. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, hello. Are you going to fill your report full of crappy comps? Dustin, the issue is that should be obvious, but the appraisers shouldn't have to say so. That's kind of like going to the doctor and the doctor says, Dustin, I'm going to examine you. And please remember that the os stick I'm going to stick in your mouth has been sterilized. Well, you just have the right to assume that. Okay. Right. Or the doctor, you're sitting there on the operating table and the doctor looks at you and says, Dustin, I graduated from medical school. Oh, yeah. Hello. That's just kind of assumed. And, this is not the place to find out, oh, Dustin, I'm doing an appendectomy, but I wasn't in class that day. So we're kind of winging it.
Yeah.
No. So the point is to say these are the best comps is a little bit of self-righteousness. Now, it's perfectly okay to say, client, look, this property is a 10,000 square foot custom built house in the middle of Wyoming, and the only way you can get there is via helicopter. Therefore, there aren't many comps. And in that case, I searched Wyoming, and I searched Idaho, and I searched Montana, and I searched Northern Utah, and I found 4 comps. So these are the best, knowing that they might not be all that good.
Yeah,
that's perfectly okay. In fact, you should say that. But just to say boilerplate, the comps in the report are the best there are. Well, yeah, They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to say it. If they're not, why are they there?
And I think I understand exactly where you're coming from, Tim. And I'll freely admit, I've had in my boilerplate in the past something very, very similar to this. And by the way, I set this up as comp photos, and that's originally where I was going with this. But you're right. We're not talking about comp photos here. We're talking about comps in general. We're talking about individuals in their report who are specifically saying, you know, the comps that I used in this are the best and most comparable available. Your response is, duh.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. So in lieu of, let me play the devil's advocate here. Okay, let's be on the other side, and I've been on the other side. It's no longer in my report. You're right that this is specifically what is said. But I think let's just face it. You know, the music straight on. This comes back to, Tim, something that you and I have talked about over and over and over again on this program, and that is the way that appraisal is taught is from quote unquote father to son. And I'm not necessarily talking, in my case that was the case, but I'm talking about from mentor to trainee, whether you're male or female, whether you're related or not, mattereth not. But the concept of you've got someone you look to as the quote unquote parent or the expert who is then teaching you the way to appraise. In one way, that can be a great thing. In many other ways, that perpetuates the cutting off of the ends of the ham problem, right? That we're passing on unnecessary junk that doesn't need to be there because quote unquote, hey, that's just the way it's supposed to be. How often do you see that?
Oh, Destin, as we were talking earlier, you know, 95% of appraisers make the rest of us look bad. The problem is, Destin, there are still appraisers out there who use, for example, $45 a square foot for a GLA adjustment, whether it's a $150,000 house or $15 million house. And let's face it, $45 a square foot is going to work someplace. You know, it's like a stopped clock. It's right twice a day, but the rest of the time it isn't. So to say, oh, just, you know, use $45 a square foot, and if that doesn't work, goose it to 50. Okay. But the point is, when the good folks at the state say, will you please show us in your work file your derivation of $45 a square foot? If the appraiser can't, then the appraiser is potentially looking for some more pleasant or unpleasant afternoons with the state board. Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to what you just said. You know, the comps in the report are the best there are. Well, they might have been when they sold, but if your adjustments mungle them all up, then they're probably not the best comps. And then let's face it, Dustin, the competency rule says, appraiser, you will be competent to complete this assignment prior to agreeing to accept it. Well, $45 a square foot might work, but those times when it doesn't, what you're basically doing is you're saying, well, I mean, not only am I incompetent, but I'm going to sign a certification that says I'm incompetent. So it's a lot more, it's a lot deeper, it's a lot broader than merely saying, well, yeah, $45 a square foot works. I move on. Use that, move on. Go ahead. Because Standard Rule 2-3 makes it very clear that, quote, every statement of fact in this appraisal report is true and correct. And to say $45 a square foot is a GLA adjustment, is my opinion, is utter, complete crap. It is not an opinion. And the reason it's not an opinion is because it is a fact that must be extracted from the market. Therefore, it's not an opinion. It's a statement of fact. And if you make a statement of fact that has no basis in fact, that's just another word for lying.
Interesting. It really is. I mean, because a lot of what and this goes back to what I said earlier, a lot of what we learn is that appraisal is opinion, and therefore we feel obligated to describe and explain our opinion. Thus the question on the board, you know, stating the comps shown in the report are the best, most comparable available. I certainly understand where you're coming from, that it is self-serving, that it's repetitive. Of course, what are you going to use? The worst comps that were available? But this goes to a bigger, broader question, Tim, that I would have for you, and that is addendum, comments, commentary. What's your general advice? And by the way, I would set this up by you know, touting your services. One of the things that Tim does is he will look at your reports if you are so inclined to hire him and send him, you know, 2 to 3 reports that he can look over and give advice on things that you are doing good, things that you could tweak, and things that you completely need to scrap and redo, helping you to better produce better reports. So Tim, with that setup, what is your general opinion about commentary in reports not going far enough or going too far?
Okay, Dustin, there is a sweet spot without question, but the issue is Well, it's extremely detailed, and therefore there isn't a generic answer. Basically, if you make a statement in a report, if it doesn't flow directly to your value opinion, if it doesn't flow directly from your highest and best use analyses, or it's not required by law. And for example, in Michigan, I don't remember what it is, but you got to state something silly because state law says you have to. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't flow directly into your value opinion, if it doesn't flow directly from your highest and best use analyses, why the hell is it in the report? Right. I remember when I first got started appraising back in the previous millennium, all the reports, all the area analysis started out. Florida was discovered in 1463 by Ponce de Leon. Well, if they do, who cares? What does that have to do with anything? And this is what I mean. If it doesn't flow directly to your value conclusion, or if it doesn't flow directly from your highest and best use analyses, why is it in the report? And then going back to the issue of opinions, you get to express only two opinions in the report: your highest and best use opinion and your value opinion. Everything else must be a market-derived, market-supported, market-logical fact.
And where do we get that? Of course, one of the places is Synapse. Synapse, of course, is a new sponsor here on the program. Synapse will help you to derive what those market adjustments can be, folks. Now, this is an absolute amazing program that you need to check out. Okay, this goes beyond what you've seen with other programs out there. This is absolutely the best, in my opinion, support, because it comes at that from various directions. One of the things that Tim talked about is $45 a square foot, right? Well, maybe that is the accurate adjustment for the particular property and neighborhood and market conditions that you're dealing with. How would you know, though, without doing the work? And one of the ways that work is made more simple is with Synapse. Check them out by going to sparkforappraisers.com, and right in the middle of the page you will see a button for Synapse to learn more. Watch the videos, check out the training. You will be very impressed. Again, it's sparkforappraisers.com and Synapse. A la Mode, of course, is making appraisal easy. It's making your report writing easy. It's allowing you tools that are inside the program themselves to help assist you to be the very best appraiser possible. Folks, it does it in a way that makes your job, well, less difficult. Check them out by going to alamode.com or pick up the phone and call them. If you pick up the phone and call them at 800-ALA-MODE, folks, they will talk to you and discuss with you why it is that Alamode is the leader. Again, it's alamode.com or 800-ALA-MODE. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP. One of the things that OREP does is it gives you benefits. One of the benefits is free. Yes, I did say free, F-R-E-E. Continuing education. Yes, this is actually continued education that will count toward your CE for your renewal. One of those classes, at least one, maybe there's more, one of those classes is taught by my good friend, Tim Andersen. And yes, it is free if you are an OREP member. Check them out by going to orep.org. Again, that's OREP.org. I want to welcome each of you back to the program, talking with my friend and the USPAP expert, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome back, Tim.
Dustin, thank you. As always, it's great to be here, and it's great to be with your listeners. Thank you.
And thank you, my friend. The next question I'm going to summarize by basically saying, what is the longevity of an appraisal report? And specifically, you had mentioned that in your discussion with others and maybe just perusal of the general appraisal world, that there's an idea among some, I'm going to say some, hopefully not the majority, but some appraisers, that once an appraisal is done and turned in, it gets filed away somewhere, never to be heard of again. Thoughts?
Well, in one sense, it does. But the point is, anybody can open that file drawer anytime they want to for any reason whatsoever. Okay. I remember when my father was about 84 years old and semi-invalid and all sorts of things that happened to 84-year-old men. He got a subpoena because somebody wanted him to ask questions about a development he put together in Fort Lauderdale in 1974, when my dad was like 52 years old. So, he was an attorney. He knew how to play the game, and he went down there and he swore himself in, and he sat there and they'd ask him a question. He said, "Guys, I'm 84. I don't remember what I had for breakfast." But the point is, there isn't an end to this stuff. USPAP has no provision for the rupturing of the appraiser-client relationship. It exists forever. Even if Dustin, recently you sold your business. Okay, well, you're out of it, and somebody else is in it now. But the point is, you can be subpoenaed to testify what you did or what you didn't do and why you did it and why you didn't do it up until the day you die. So you turn in your report, and I will flat guarantee you it gets reviewed. It goes to a nationwide reviewer. I know a couple of them as personal friends, and they give it what they call a light review. They're just looking for really icky, nasty stuff. Okay, they're not going to correct your grammar. They're looking for egregious errors, like your adjusted final value range is 285 to 315, and you come in at $375,000. You know, they're looking for silly mistakes like that. Then the paper is eventually going to get sold. It's going to get sold to one of the GSEs, and I'm just going to use Fannie Mae. But Fannie Mae audits about everything. Now, it doesn't have to do it immediately. It may wait 6, 12, 18 months to audit the report, but it's going to be audited. Now, an audit at that level is not looking for details, it's looking for trends. And if your trend, if you show up at $45 a square foot for all of your GLA adjustments, and everybody else isn't using $45 a square foot, Fannie Mae is going to want to know what makes you so smart. And you'll get a letter saying, "Hello, thank you. Please tell us why you use $45 a square foot all the time."
Wait a second.
$100,000
letters. They don't say thank you.
House. I'm sorry.
I said I've seen those letters. They don't say thank you.
Oh well, I'm trying to be polite. And then let's face it, Fannie sells the paper to Wall Street investors, and Wall Street investors have what they're called reps and warrants, meaning representations and warranties. And they represent to the buyer of their paper, they warranty to the buyer of their paper that the appraisals are accurate. So as a result, there is that potential for audit. Okay. And so as a result, you know, the appraisal leaves your desk. Nobody debates that. But it can come back to you at any time for any reason. And merely because you've thrown the file out because it's been 5 years does not protect you from anything. You still get a subpoena. You're still going to have to respond to the subpoena. Your response may be, "Hey, I threw the file out a year ago because I had no reason to keep it." But depending on how snotty the other attorney is, you may still have to testify.
Yeah. Well, and I want to follow up with a question on work file. I first want to clarify one thing. Yes, I did sell my business. I'm still very involved in both the running of the business and being an active appraiser. But you mentioned statute of limitations. And I think that if you asked any appraiser on the street, hey, what's the statute of limitations, if you will, for an appraisal report, most of them would say 5 years. Right. And we all know where that comes from, Mr. USPAP instructor. We also see, you know, sometimes appraisers posting on the internet, hey, it's been 5 years and 1 day since I went digital for my work files. And now I'm going to have a big bonfire and burn all of these banker boxes full of these old files. Talk to me about that, Tim, because you just said that an appraisal, you know, never dies, and you have the chance of it being brought back up maybe decades later. Kind of an unrelated but related question. What about work files? Would you recommend that we keep them forever?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And with that, we're going to close. Talk to us, Tim.
You know, let's face it. Somebody says, "Well, Dustin never came out to my house. He sent some trainee." Okay. This is a very common tactic by our friends, the brokers, to get an appraiser in trouble, to somehow try to discredit the appraisal. Believe me, if the appraisal cannot be discredited, that complaint will go nowhere. And if it can be discredited, you don't need to make the complaint. It'll get the appraiser eventually in trouble. But from a standpoint of if you were able to go to your file and you were able to show your car out in front of the house, it's going to be tough for the other side to say, "Well, Dustin didn't visit my property." Now, could Dustin have driven past the property, gotten out of the car, taken a picture in front of the house, gotten back in the car and driven off? Yeah. But let's face it, it's pretty good evidence you were there. One of the more interesting stories I heard about this, an appraiser was accused of that very thing. So he got in the work file and he was able to find a picture he'd taken of the bathroom in which there was his reflection in the mirror. Therefore, he was in the house and the charge went away. Now, had he not had the work file, which again, after 5 years, you don't have to keep it unless it's open because of a testimony issue. You throw it out, that's your choice. But what I recommend is you make everything digital and then throw it out, because it costs nothing to store a file digitally. And you, depending on the memory capacity, you can put like 5 years worth of files on a travel drive and keep that on a keychain you use when you start your car. So maintaining files is not difficult. It's not expensive. It's not time consuming. You digitize everything. And you've spoken many times about going paperless. And while you may not be able to go paperless immediately, Eventually, when you have somebody, you hire a 15-year-old kid to go through and scan the papers into the files. So I don't see why appraisers make such a big deal out of, I get to burn all my files. Well, okay, but save them digitally first. And then, why contribute to pollution? Just have them shredded.
Sage advice from my friend Tim Andersen. Tim, how do people get a hold of you if they would like to utilize the services that we talked about earlier?
Drive down the street honking loudly, waving a $100 bill. I'll find them. No, Dustin, my email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com, and I will be happy to answer their email.
Always a pleasure, and always wise advice from you, and can't wait to have you back.
I appreciate it, Dustin. I look forward to it, and as always, my best to your family.
Likewise.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.